Good day all, welcome to Obed Farm. Well, taking care of broiler chickens, now that we have finished the full cycle from 0 days all the way to 6 weeks, I think it's high time now I tell you roughly how much money a person makes from raising of chickens. Well, it's always just not good just to run into the numbers without actually telling you how best you take care of your chickens and how best we get them to where we want them to be within 5 to 6 weeks. The first thing that we are going to all talk about is the first things that we do. Buying the chickens, buying the day-old chicks. As I always say, buying day-old chicks means that you need to buy day-old chicks from reputable company. What do I mean by buying from a reputable company? Buying from a company that is well known for doing day-old chicks. So to me, the companies that I would always advise people to go to is Ivan's, Charles & Stewart. Those are the kind of companies that I'm talking about. Capital Feed. These are the companies that I talk about, which I know that will give you day-old chicks, which are considered to be healthy and which are reputable companies that do sell these day-old chicks. From these companies, you will know very well that you are getting chicks which are of growing stature. And getting these chickens which are of a reputable stature, this means that you are now getting a bunch of chickens that you know that will grow well within the specified time. The next thing is the feed. The feed that we are buying is also best to buy from that company that you would have bought these chickens from. Because from those chicken companies that you'd have bought from, they have their own formulation of how to grow those chickens. As for me, I buy my chickens from Charles & Stewart, but I actually use Capital Feed for their feed. It's because I actually feel more comfortable with the Capital feed than I do with the feed that I get from there. That is just me. But for most people, it is best to use that kind of program of those feeds. Now that we have bought the feeds, we now know the chickens that we have bought are of healthy. Also buy the medication that is needed. The first medication that is needed, which is very important, is to buy a stress pack. That stress pack is to make sure that when the chickens arrive, they arrive and you give them water with stress pack. But before we buy even the chickens, before we do anything, when we go and we collect these chickens, please make sure that there are a few things that you look at. The first thing that you look at is when you are given those chickens and they are counting them for you. If you've got 50, if you've got 100, if you've got 200, whatever number it is, take the time to count them before you leave. Reasons is just to make sure that you're weaning out anyone that looks unhealthy, anyone that looks deformed, anyone that does not look as if they are going to grow well. They will make sure that they replace them for you before they give you these chickens. And before you get those chickens, you would have made sure that you have got the right quantity and the right amount of chickens. And they normally throw in anything from 1 to 5 extras depending on the quantities that you have bought. We now have taken our chickens from the chicken hatchery and we are now taking our chickens home. Once we get home with our chickens, the first thing that we do is make sure that we remove them from the box. But before we even start removing them from the box, we first make sure that the place that we have prepared for the chickens are well prepared. If we get them in a time when it is cool or when it is cold, make sure that we have already made sure that we have increased a warm environment for our chickens. This could be using charcoals. This could be using heated lamps. This could be using any kind of heating system that works best for you and where you are. So that by the time the chickens arrive, the place is already set for them. They are ready to be removed from their box. And once they are removed from their box, they are ready to enjoy their new environment. But as we have given them in their new environment, the first thing we do is first, again, we count the number of chickens and we monitor and we look at the ones that we see that these ones, are they okay? These ones not okay. And the ones that are not okay, you put them in a group so that those ones will be the first ones you attend to. You let these chickens roam around the area for about 30 minutes without even giving them water, without even giving them food. That's what I normally do. For 30 minutes so that they get accustomed to the area, they're moving around, they're feeling that there is space for them. And then after that, the first thing I always do is that I give them water which is already mixed with stress pack. This is for them to get used to knowing that now that we are now digesting, they're getting in water into their system for them, because stress pack has got energy. It's more of a sugar solution which gives them energy. The next thing, after about I've made sure that each and every one of them has had water, or if I feel that they are not having water, I actually dip their beaks into the water so that they actually drink water, to know that there is water and that they need to drink it. At this point in time, after I've made sure that all of the chicks have had some water, then I put for them food. The feed that I normally put is obviously a starter mash. With this starter mash, is for them, for their growth purpose, and this is what is recommended. Starter mash. And as I always try to say to people, do not try to formulate some of these feeds, because some of these feeds, unless if you're doing this on a large scale, but if you're a beginner, just buy straight feed. And at the same time, even if you are not even a beginner and you're a person who's already knows how to do this, do it in small batches until you get to become professional and mixing your own batches. There are formulations for it, but all these formulations for it, you need to follow that formulation as per the company guidelines that they give you. We have now given our chicken starter mash, and at this point in time, we are making sure that they've got enough water, abundance of water, a constant amount of water, and feed. During the day, if you want to do, you could actually light up the place whereby they have 24 hours of unlimited feed. These are the options. Unlimited feed, whereby you actually light up the room, or there is a position whereby you say to yourself, they will have feed until a certain amount of time, and then you can switch off the lights, and then they have some time to rest, and then in the early mornings, the lights are back on. If you find that the heating is not sufficient enough, put them back in the box, especially on the first day. Put them back in the box in the evening. Make sure that they're in a place where it is a bit warm, whereby they're sitting together and they are warming up each other. The next morning, you can take out the birds from the box and you can let them free, and they will continuously feed until you see them feathering. The first 2 weeks of the lifestyle of a chick is very important, because this is the point where they die a lot, and this is the point that their growth pattern is determined. The feed that you're giving them. They should always have adequate feed. Not limited you should not limit them to saying that we just want to limit them. They should not be limited. They should have as much feed as they want at any given time. They should have enough water at any given time. And the first 3 days, make sure that every water that you're giving with them has got stress pack. We have then finished our first 1 to 2 weeks with these birds. This is the procedure that you will follow each and every day. The bedding, make sure that the bedding is dry. If the bedding is wet, they will die of coccidiosis and because of the moisture. The bedding needs to be dry. The food needs to be clean. The water needs to be clean. This is very important for your chickens to grow. We have done this for the first 2 weeks of their growth, and we will be only feeding them starter growers mash. That is the only thing that we're feeding them, starters mash, for the first 2 weeks. After 2 weeks of this growth period, they should have, let's say, 400 birds, they should have consumed 50 kgs of feed. So that is 1 bag of maize of starter mash that they should have finished. Once they have finished their first 50 kgs of feed, we then move on to grower mash. Grower mash is now for them to develop into growing birds. At this point in time, from the 2 weeks, they should have they should show signs of feathers, be it on their wings and their back, but not in their head. But they should start showing signs of white feathers to show that we have got our broilers that are growing fast. At week 3, we are now in growers mash, but at the same time, we're giving them clean water. We are making sure that we monitor the grass that we have, the bedding that we have. If the bedding is wet, we add or we remove the bedding and put new bedding. If the bedding is okay, we make sure that there is enough there is anything additional that we need to put additional straw. If not, we also then make sure that ventilation is now starting. At this point in time, we will have now started withdrawing the heating, because at this point in time, they should be showing signs of feather and they will not be needing that heat as much as they do. After 1 week, by the second week, you will know how much heat they need because of the way that they will be moving. Second, between the third and fourth week, at this point in time, it is more about feeding them grower mash. The grower mash that we are feeding them is to make sure that they grow as much as possible. Again, this will be unlimited. The minute you start limiting broiler feed to these chicks, the more they grow slow. Their growth pattern becomes very slow, and when their growth pattern becomes slow, you will find that they will not be growing as fast as you want them, or you will find that you're not getting to the number of kgs that you want. There is a chart of how much kgs they should be weighing at a certain amount of kgs. These you can find over the internet according to where you are and where you're located, and also according to the feed that you are feeding them from, the company that you're feeding them from. At this point in time, if you have noticed, we have not done any injections, no other chemical. The only thing we have given is we have given stress pack, and the other thing that we would have given is oxytetracycline, I hope I've pronounced it well, medication for them during this whole period. The oxytetracycline is meant for them not to have worms in their stomachs, and at the same time, it is more like an antibiotic for them. Those are the only two things that we would have given them until this point in time. Once we start seeing red stool coming out from the chickens, we need to continue giving the oxytetracycline medication to the chicks. We have been doing this now for the next 2 weeks. At this point in time, we are now in a position where 100 birds should have consumed, at least by the week 4, they should have consumed another 2 bags of feed. 2 bags to 4 bags of additional maize, depending on the formulation that you go. Others say 1, 4, 2. Others go 1, 2, 4. So it is the way that you decide that you want to do. But in total, we will give 7 bags of feed to these chickens to get them to the size that we want. We have given them the feed that we want. We have given them the right quantity of feed that we do. We have made sure that we have given our chickens unlimited feed for the next 2 weeks. Now we are in week 4. And we have now changed from growers to finishers. Either the last 2 weeks you're going into finisher, or you're going to say 3 weeks grower and then 1 week finisher, or it's vice versa, whereby it's 2 and 2. At 4 weeks, most chickens would be now close to about 1.8 kgs to 2 kgs. Now you have got really to the point whereby they're in the correct range. At 5th week is when they should hit at least 2 kgs, from 1.8 to 2.2 kgs at the end of the 5th week. This is the time where you either do one thing, you start known as what is batching. And that batching is whereby you look at the ones which are big, you actually can scale them, and then you take those ones, and those are the ones that you kill. They should give you in about 1.7 to 1.8 kgs. If you have killed them at 2.2 kgs, you will get roughly about that amount of kgs for the chickens at the end of 5th week. Also make sure that at this point in time, either you are making sure that there is enough ventilation for your chickens, so that because at this now they are fully feathered, and the heat should not be too much for them, so that they end up dying due to heat. They can die due to the amount of heat, because they themselves are producing bodily heat, which is high, and they need to be relaxed, and they need to have a lot of fresh air. And you will see that most of the time they will be opening and panting a lot, but they will still be consuming food. So you need to look at that. When we now get to 6th week, we have now got to the point in time whereby our chickens are now ready for slaughter. We should be at least an average kg of about 2 to 220 kg, 2 to 2.2 kgs of live weight for our chickens, for us to say that we are ready to go to slaughter at 6 weeks. Once we go to slaughter at 6 weeks, we now know that these chickens are now in a position to be bought at the amount of money that is valuable. Now, we have taken our chickens, we are now in the position of slaughtering them. We have slaughtered them, we have packed them, we have dressed them. Now we are now at the point where we now need to talk about how much do we get from our chickens. In this section now, I am going to talk about a person who is doing 50, 100, 200, 300, 400. Why I need you to understand these figures is because this is the best point whereby you will understand that the more number of chickens you do, the more you get. But also you need to understand that when you're doing these numbers of these chickens, these numbers have all got different meanings for you to achieve all these numbers that we are going to be talking about. So I am starting my business with 50 chickens. Normally 50 chickens, roughly, let's put our chicks at $1, between $1 and $1.10, but let's put them at $1.10. That means for 50 chicks, it's going to cost me $55. The starter mash that I need is going to be a 25 kg starter mash, which is going to cost between $17 to $18. Let us put it at $17. The grower mash I'm going to need one bag of 50 kg, which is $33. For a finisher mash, I am going to need 2 bags, which is $64. Vaccinations, I have actually not put a figure for it, but let us put, if we are going to put in $3 let us put $3 for stress pack. I have not also put in the ESP3 or the oxytetracycline that you will need for that. So let's put it at $3. Labor for 50 birds, I will not lie to you, you do not need any labor cost because this means that you will not make a profit. Staff training, at this point in time, the only staff training, you should not actually put this into it, but you yourself should have gone and found a place to learn about this. This roughly is about $25 to $50, depending on how many sessions that these companies are providing. For protective clothes, at this point in time, due to the size of this project, I also do not put anything that we need to put for protecting clothes. For feeders and drinkers, these you should at least budget about $100, but I will not put it as a cost for this, because if I put it as a cost for this at the first cycle, it will not make sense. But let us make sure that we're saying this is a full cycle whereby your equipment you have bought, your protection clothes you have bought, you yourself have self-trained yourself, or you have gone and looked for the training and you have got no labor costs that you are going to be incurring. At this point in time, the other things that you were going to incur as cost is wooden shavings or grass. Grass will be cheap because if you go cut yourself, it's not an expense. But if you go and you purchase it, look between $3 to $4.50. So let us put it at $4.50. One bag of charcoal that you will need for this growth process, you will put it at roughly $10. If you can get it cheaper, the better. This is for your heating. Your packaging will roughly cost you $1 for the 50 birds of chickens. Another thing that we then look at is transport. Wherever you are, let us just put it as, for me, $25 roughly, just to make sure that I can get from point A to point B, whereby I then be able to put it in on a small little combi for them to move those chickens for me for where I need them to go, and also to purchase my mash, whereby they carry it from the shops all the way home. At the end of your first cycle of these chickens, of your 50 chickens, it should cost you about $175. Now, as always, there is no way none of these chickens are going to die. You are going to have some which are going to die due to mortality rate. Unless if you are lucky and all 50 of them go all the way until slaughter without getting killed, then you know that you have got a very good hand for taking care of chickens. But let us say 5% of your chickens are going to die. So by the time you go to slaughter, you have got a total of 47 chickens. With these 47 chickens, and you manage to sell them roughly at a price of $6, which is the rough price. In certain other suburbs, it's going for $7, but let me go for the normally what is the lower side of it, which is $6. By the time you reach the figure that you need, you have got 47 chickens all the way to slaughter weight. You will get an estimate of $282. That is the total amount of money you will get from 50 chickens. Now, minus the expenses that we have managed to get out of everything, we should be left with about $94. That is the profit that we will make on 50 chickens. Now, that is for 50 chickens. Let's go on to 100. We have got the same formula, nothing different. We are not adding anything that is different from there. But of course, the quantities start increasing. The chickens will jump for 100 will be about $110. The starter mash, we need 1 bag, which will be $34. The growers mash, we need about 2, which will be $66. The finishers mash, we need 4 bags, which will be $128. The vaccination that we would have got there, we are now going to increase to roughly $6. The labor also at 100 birds, I still believe that you will not be able to get any money from 100 birds whereby you are paying for a labor. At this point in time, you still need to be the one who is doing it, you personally. Then we go to wooden shavings. You will need probably about $9. Charcoal, you will need about 2 bags, which will get you about $20. Packaging, you will need about $2 for your packaging. And transport, let's keep it at 25, because 25 means that you're doing all these things all at the same time. In total, your total cost will be about $375. Projected revenue after we have our mortalities will be about $570. So profit and loss jumps up to $195. You have seen that there has been a growth of almost 100% from 50 to 100 chickens. This growth is caused by the number of chickens that you are doing at a given time. That is what is very important when it comes to chickens. Let me jump at 200 chickens. I believe this is the time whereby you need an employee. An employee that you will be probably paying $100 for a 6-week cycle. So that means that every week you are paying them roughly about $20 per every week. This depends on where your location is, but I am giving it as a guideline. It is not cast in stone. Please understand that all these figures I give you is never cast in stone, because feed goes up without actually knowing. So all these things can just jump overnight, and you're not actually sure what is happening. So you need to be in a position whereby you are looking at these growths as they happen in front of you. So, but at 200 is when you will need a person to take care of your chickens. At this point in time, the chicks roughly will now be about 220. Your starter mash will jump up to $68. Your grower mash will be $132. Your finisher will be $256. Vaccination will jump to about $12. Labor about $100. Your wood shavings will now be about $15. Your charcoal will still be about $20 because between 100 to 200, depending on how much heat you need and the room size, it will not be that much different. Your packaging will be about $3. that would have jumped up to about $3 for your packaging. Your transport, this one would have now probably gone up to about $50 because now you're using a little bit more transport, because probably you're not going to buy all these things at once. You're going to probably do 2 trips for these kind of all these goods. Your total projected cost will be $826, and after mortality you're probably going to get about 190 chickens, and out of the 100 chickens, projected revenue will be $1,140, and your profit jumps up to about 315. This is if you have got an employee. If you don't have an employee and you're doing it yourself, it jumps up to about $414. This is where, by compounding, the more the chickens that you raise at once, the cheaper it becomes and the more you get in revenue. So by the time you get to about 500 to 600 chickens, you will be earning close between $993 for about 500 chickens, and for 600 chickens you'll be at about $1,242. So the bigger the number of chickens you do, the more profitable chicken farming is. Now, after I've said all these things, is it easy to do it? No, it is not. Where I say it becomes difficult is one very simple thing. You need to be able to say to yourself, where can you sell 600 chickens at once at a given time? The minute you can find a market whereby you can sell 600 chickens all at once, and you then in a position of being able to say to yourself, I should go into this chicken farming. Within this, I have given you a projection from 50 all the way to 600, which I've put up here as a table. Within all these things, anyone can find out where you need to start off in Zimbabwe when you're starting off chicken farming. And when you start off this chicken farming, please understand that mortality is the one that is going to be very important. The less they die, the better, the more revenue you make. The more they die, the more you will lose out. So always make sure that you take care of your chicken. Always make sure that you give them enough food. Always make sure that by the time you're doing all these things, you have a ready market for them to go to. The minute you understand and you do these things the way that I'm just trying to help here to do, the more you will find that chicken farming is very profitable. People will say it is not profitable. It's because we do not have an end market, and when we go into most of these businesses, we have not really looked at it holistically and properly. And at the same time, it is the same with whereby you're doing agriculture, whereby you look and they're told that you will get 6 tons or whatever. The honest truth is, until you get and do it on the ground for yourself and you produce these figures, that is the only time you understand where you are. So for me, with my 100 birds that I with my 50 birds that I did for the last project that I was doing, which I do on my circulation, it means that after 6 weeks, I have managed to get a $94 profit. If I increase them to 100, I know I am going to jump from $94 to $195. When I increase to 200 chickens, I am going to get $314. And if I keep on increasing them, the numbers that I want, I will get to about the numbers that I need. At 600 chickens, I know that I will be at least $1,242 as in profit. But for me to get that $1,242, a lot of things need to have come together and should be working in conjunction. Well, I hope I've helped those people who say that they wanted really the breakdown of how much it costs to raise chicken from 0 days to 6 weeks. This was the part I know that people wanted to do, the maths. The marketing is a different story, so market on its own, but this is how much you are expected to do. Excluding everything else, I hope this has been informative. I hope that I've been able to help. And for those who have not liked the channel, please like the channel. To those who have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a good day.